When Nintendo unveiled The Legend of Zelda, the video game industry was changed forever. No longer were console games confined to linear gameplay where the player controls a character moving from the left side of the screen to the right. The whole world was now available for an adventure, and the player had full control to explore the land, enter dungeons, and seek out hidden items. The success of The Legend of Zelda undeniably inspired Nintendo to explore applying the same themes to other types of games. By all accounts, Metroid represented the first attempt to do this in the action genre. In its earliest stages, the game was called Space Hunter, and it was originally developed for the Famicom Disk System in Japan. It didn't reach North America in cartridge form until 1987. Story-wise, the game takes place in the futuristic world of Zebes, which has been invaded by various space pirates in the year 20X5. The space pirates have recently seized samples of Metroid creatures, parasitic life forms that can attach to any living thing and drain its energy, eventually destroying it. It's up to the galactic bounty hunter Samus Aran to invade the base of the space pirates and destroy Mother Brain, the biomechanical life form that controls the group's operations. According to the game's character designer, Yoshio Sakamoto, the first Alien movie served as a huge influence to Metroid's world. By all accounts, he hoped to lay the foundations for the game's atmosphere while giving Nintendo's development team a very free working environment that allowed for revolutionary design ideas. The product was a game that captivated audiences of fans who flocked to the game, hoping its innovative style would push gaming further than it ever had been pushed before. One of the most important aspects of this game, for better or worse, was its huge, open-ended world. No longer was the player stopped from exploring by a scrolling screen. They could travel throughout the world, whether aimlessly or with the knowledge of where they need to go. This reality was perceived as a novel concept because a true free-roaming action platformer of this kind and on this scale had never been made before. In every way, it combined the characteristics that made Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda smash hits. Metroid's game mechanics also lent themselves to the game's free-roaming style, namely through the Morph Ball, where Samus transforms into a metallic sphere half her size. In combination with the bombs, this allows her to take a smaller form, move through narrow passageways, and clear the way through places that could not be accessed otherwise. The sheer amount of hidden items, attacks, and weapons made progressing through the game a joy to experience. Metroid contains 5 total areas: Brinstar, Norfair, Kraid's Lair, Ridley's Lair, and Torian. Both Kraid and Ridley pose roadblocks to Samus's progress, and even though they weren't too flashy, they were cool bosses for their own time. Mother Brain, though, was one of the coolest encounters in gaming history, bar none. Just the structure of her room and the patterns of attacks made it impossible to bypass her without being meticulous. Mother Brain has since become one of the most iconic adversaries in gaming, and here's where she got her start. The free-roaming world of Metroid also brought challenges, namely in the fact that the player is given almost no direction on where to go or what to do. Nevertheless, it was something the gaming world adapted to, and players in those days drew extensive maps, took notes on where to find items, and committed to memory the paths to different worlds and bosses. While this style may be off-putting to today's younger generation of gamers, back then this was considered a feature rather than a defect. Players just simply loved the non-linear style. Metroid featured a password system, which worked fine for its time, but it doesn't really hold up too well now. This is because it required a lengthy string of 24 characters, which was just tedious to record and input. In fact, the slightest mistake in writing down the password meant that you lost all of your progress, which was a real downside. Interestingly enough, several real English names and words function as tangible passwords. Most famously, the name Justin Bailey can be plugged in to start Samus in Norfair without her power suit. With this code, she also begins with 5 energy tanks, 255 missiles, the Varius suit, high jump boots, screw attack, and wave beam. The downside here is that the ice beam is still required to defeat Mother Brain and beat the game, but this was a huge time saver for players that used the code at the time. There are several theories as to whether the code was intentional or not, but the most plausible explanation is that it was coincidental. According to Metroid Database, this is because the password worked within the confines of the game's system, and only became noteworthy because it was so easy to repeat and communicate with others. If players beat the game in under 5 hours, they were treated to the shocking revelation that Samus Aran, despite being assumed by many to be male, was actually female. At the time, this was seen as one of gaming's biggest surprises. Up until that point, nearly all video game protagonists had been male. Also, Metroid's NES manual implies Samus is male several times. It doesn't seem like very much now, but to see her unmasked at the end was just a cool little Easter egg for that era. As far as NES games go, the music in Metroid is undoubtedly among the most distinct on the entire system. Most of the tunes are dark and mysterious, and really capture a science fiction impression. And it all starts off with the title screen. Check this out. If that isn't haunting enough, the theme of Brinstar is probably one of the most infectious songs in the entire catalog of NES music. Even though the game featured only 12 songs, it really was a soundtrack that stood out for its time, definitely on the level of Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda. The game was also marketed in Nintendo's trademark cheesy style that was popular at the time. Just take a look at this commercial, which oozes of the 1980s.
The challenge is Metroid. The power is Nintendo. Defend the planet Xygor against the evil Mother Brain. It's survival or destruction. Do battle or die. Metroid only from Nintendo.
But even that doesn't beat out the corniness of the Japanese commercial.
銀河連邦司令メトロイドを破壊せよ。
地底深く広がる迷路要塞に宇宙征服の野望が渦巻く。
行け宇宙戦士サムス。
ファミリーコンピュータディスクカードにアクション&迷路ゲームメトロイド。やればやるほどディスクシステム。
It's a real shame that Metroid never got a sequel on the NES, but it was an amazing start to what became a revered franchise. Out of all the action-adventure games on the system, this is one you absolutely must play. It's nostalgic to the core, and will certainly hold up today, especially if you remember playing it in the past. The game was remade on the Game Boy Advance as Metroid Zero Mission, and was thankfully included in the NES Classic package. It was also one of the very first NES games to be made available for purchase on the Nintendo Switch, so it can definitely be obtained multiple ways today. If you like this review and remember Metroid, leave a comment below about the most memorable aspect of the game to you. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell below to be alerted upon the addition of new ones. Also, please consider supporting my channel via YouTube's Join feature to receive member exclusives, such as advanced videos and complete video transcripts.